seem to have great chemistry. What do you think it is about the way you each work that makes it possible for you to make such great projects together?
Well, I got behind and I wasn't keeping up with the shoot, so I got Eric to direct the second unit for me. Very sweet. Very sweet. I'm not kidding, I couldn't make the schedule, it was so tough, and because I was shooting the sequences with women, he had a bit of free time, so he went off and directed the second unit. So we threatened for Eric to direct the next film starring me.
We've been together a long time. We first met on a lovely Australian film called Romulus, My Father. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend it. It was actually directed by Richard Roscoe, who plays Dan Bailey in the film. And Rob produced that film, Richard directed, and I was in it. And we all became mates, and then Rob was moving to my hometown of Melbourne. I said, well, let's get an office together. I'm in this little bolt, let's share a space. And the idea was that making films and being an actor and a producer and director is so bloody lonely. And there's so much lonely downtime between projects. We just wanted a space where we could just go and hang out, share ideas, support each other, encourage each other. That's what we did, and that was 14 or 15 years ago. We had no structure, we had no company together, we had no deal. And we just like hang out, and when we find something that we want to work together on, we do it. And it's beautiful because there's no pressure. There's absolutely no pressure for us to do anything together. And then when the right project comes along, we do it. We don't have an output deal, we don't have like a deal with anyone. We just pay 50% of the rent, we compliment each other around the office. I do all the interior design. I pack the dishwasher, unpack the dishwasher. Not sure what we do in the office, but we do something, I'm sure. Help put the movies together, that's a good contribution. But no, it is, it's been great for us. I mean, even just the work stuff aside, like it's just been wonderful for us to have a place to go and just hang out. You know, I can't do it at home because obviously I can go out tinkering on a freaking car or a bike, so I just have to go to the office, and that's far more productive.
Yeah, I always encourage young filmmakers just to find a space somewhere and we'll go and hang out there. And you know, get up in the morning, go somewhere and talk about life and ideas and what you're reading, what's happening in the world, and the creative collaboration rises out of that. Like it's not a forced thing.
Rob's also, I can say this on his behalf, he's an amazing mentor, and he's constantly mentoring young people, and having the office means that we have a space where we can do that and facilitate that in a very real way, and they come in and Rob shepherds them through projects and helps them on their way, and it's a great thing to see and be a part of.
Well, I mean, it sounds like a great way to keep the fun of filmmaking alive and not get bogged down. So your recommendation to young filmmakers is to rent an office together?
Well, it's funny, I don't know if it's the same issue here in Australia, because you know, I've got 21 and 19-year-olds and Eric's got young kids too, and rent is so expensive. Like when I finished school, you know, I rented a warehouse in Sydney with all these other artists, and it was a pretty wild place to hang out. It didn't cost very much money. And I often fear for a lot of younger creative people that actually finding somewhere physical to work is hard. And so, you know, there are lots of initiatives in Victoria and Melbourne where I am to try and create spaces where young creative people, and also across different art forms. So you've got composers hanging out with painters and photographers and filmmakers, and you know, people just sharing a physical creative space. And I think there's such a value in it.
Is that how you got your start too in filmmaking? You just kind of found a group and you know, found a place to hang out and just started talking about ideas?
Yeah, it was in the back of Glebe in Sydney. It was like a big warehouse, and we all paid a little bit of money, and we weren't squatting, but we almost were squatting. Like, I don't think we were quite meant to be there, but you know, there was a bit of cash that was transacting. And there was an artist there, visual artist, Lynette Walworth, who is now a Sundance, not alumni, she's more senior within the Sundance world, but she does innovative VR work. And back then, we're talking the late 80s, when we were doing that, you know, she was a painter. And so I think a lot of us that hung out there all went into different areas and kept in touch across the years. So that was an amazing period of time.
Great. Great, I think we're gonna open it up to questions from the audience now. I don't know, if somebody's in the back. Go ahead.
The parallel story with Aaron's mother being lost, in the book, is it clear that did she pass away? And because didn't seem clear in the film, and I think, was that a choice that you made and why?
Yeah, it's a question for those who couldn't hear about the flashback with Aaron as a little boy and his mother. In the book, there are photographs of him going in the bush with his father, and we talked to Jane Harper, the author, about, because the story was so driven by these five incredible women, that it was a chance to explore his relationship with his mother. And again, it was something that, much like the first film, was designed to psychologically inform his current kind of predicament and his sense of guilt and knowledge of the bush. But the idea of clarity with it is one that it's something I'm not quite sure exactly where we've landed with it, but I wanted it to be just a little bit ambiguous. But in my own view, I feel like she sadly passed away, from the injuries she sustained. But I wanted to leave that as an open-ended thing for audiences as well. I don't know, let's do a poll on this. How many people thought she died in the bush? Yeah. And how thought she died?
The hospital.
But that speaks to that idea of not closing all the loops. I love question mark endings on films. It's very tricky. The Dry has a massive question mark ending. And I've always enjoyed that. Almost the conversation about the film goes beyond once you've seen it.
What was it like acting in the first movie in the desert in Australia versus this film in the rainforest? How did that affect everything?
This was so much harder. This was just brutal for the cast and the crew, which we were all really, really up for, because we actually, most of these locations, no one's been allowed to film there. And the reason for that is that the areas are so sensitive, but because we're local filmmakers with a track record, we presented a compelling case to the park authorities and so forth, and we were all really willing to sacrifice. It meant you can't park any unit vehicles, trailers, blah, 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 anywhere near these locations. So it meant hiking in, porta potties, no retreat from the weather, a salad roll for lunch or whatever that was, hiking. So we were prepared to go through that because we knew we could get something amazing on the big screen. The drive was very different. We were always either in or in close proximity to a regional town in Victoria. It was really, really hot because it was peak of the drought back in 2018, was it? Just before pre-pandemic. So drought broke after we made that film, just saying. They were quite different. I don't know, I think the heat's more comfortable.
Yeah, so how long did you make the film? How long did it take you, and how long did it prepare you for your character, Aaron?
The shoot of the film was 7 weeks, and probably the development 6 months, then maybe 7 or 8 weeks prep, 7 week shoot, and then about 6 months post-production. And then in terms of preparing?
Yeah, so same, we're in the office together, so we shared the prep time and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I've had more than enough time between the two. We didn't know straight away that we were going to make this film. When we made The Dry, we were just so scared of that adaptation and trying to do the best possible job, so we never discussed the opportunity to make a second film. It's the rarest thing in the world, hard enough making independent cinema, especially in Australia. So we were pinching ourselves every day on the set of The Dry, and then when that turned into a huge hit, it was like the option became available that with our investors and partners, we could possibly do the second film. And then we applied the same rigor that we did to this film, which was, can we justify a cinematic version of this novel? And what's the biggest possible version that we can make? And so that's how this movie came to be.
Two quick questions. One, did the second unit directing make you, in such current conditions apparently make you even more excited to do it in the future maybe, or less? And second one, being an Adelaide boy and loving my footy, for both of you, who's your tip for the AFL Premiership this year?
First question, yeah, I love the camera. I'm obsessed with photography and camera and lenses, and love hanging out in the camera department on every film. So directed a documentary some years ago, so it's not completely foreign to me. I may do some more in the future, but in this case it was really just like pure practicality. As a producer, like how can we get this without spending money on getting another crew day in there and so forth. Secondly, it's really tough this year, it's really tight. Unfortunately, I don't think the Premiership team's going to come from South Australia.
Yeah, no,
I think
I felt pretty,
one of
yeah,
the
after
Sydney
Thursday I was
teams.
pretty bad.
Yeah, so it won't be my team, it could be his team, he's a Swan supporter. So he's feeling quite smug right now.
That must be nice.
We've only been to the football together once because we do like having our friendship.
It's the only time we've ever had any conflict at that game. Not on set, at the football.
Oh, thank you. So almost everyone kind of wanted to kill Alice in the movie. When you two were reading the book for the first time, did you figure out who it would be, or did you guess it was some other way that she ends up dying? Did you think she was going to end up being dead? What were your thoughts while you were reading the book?
Yeah, it's a question about Alice and the people up the back, and every single person in the film probably had a motivation to kill her. I actually love what Anna Torv did with the character, in creating a kind of robust, tough character, but with great threads of emotional vulnerability when I read the book, it's tricky to piece it together, and I hope the film had the same journey for people, pondering. There's a great red herring in the book that we pulled back a bit in the film, which is the story of the serial killer. It's much stronger in the book. It's still in the film, but the whole idea speaks to that theme of the grey area of crime. Often we like to believe that crimes have been committed by someone really evil, and there's a whole genre of Australian films about really evil people in the bush killing backpackers. And, Tourism Australia loves those films. But I think the film was trying to say, we think that. I remember I did a TV show years ago, and I spent a day researching a petty court. And at the end of the day, I had dinner with the magistrate, and he said, I've been a magistrate for 30 years. 99.9% of people that have come before this court are good people who did something dumb. Only 0.01% of them are truly evil. And I think that's what the subplot was trying to skew, that idea that maybe, the cliche there. But I don't know, like when I read the book, whether I worked out what had happened, probably not actually. It's a real trick because you want to know that there's enough clues in there that someone could work it out.
Oh, I get really confused. Because then it's like, we do the adaptation, and then sometimes you're on the set and you're talking with the crew who've read the book and read the script, and you're like, no, people do get confused whilst you're making it. And then you're trying to work out, what did we change again? And is it that, or is no, that was in the book. No, it was in the script. No, it's her. No, it's the spider. So it does on the set sometimes. It is a bit can be a bit confusing. That's why we have a script supervisor. So
So right up the back there, you can see. Yep.
Yep.
Are the sisters in the book black also?
It's not defined actually in the book, so the diversity issues in Australian cinema are really marked. Our national cinema hasn't got a great track record of diversity on our screens, and there's been a lot of massive efforts in that regard, and something probably to be embarrassed about in our national cinema. But Tony Briggs, who plays Chase, some of you may have seen the film The Sapphires, an Australian film. He wrote that. And he is an Indigenous writer and actor whose family is actually from the area we filmed in. But no, the book actually didn't define any of the diverse nature
one more question.
Do you ever consider making Bailey the killer?
Yeah, there's a question about Bailey, whether he could be the killer. It's interesting. We never considered making him the killer, but we did explore ramping up the various elements that were complicit in the murder. So even though the murder is like almost manslaughter, they have the fight and she falls over, bangs her head. But we did look at all of the different characters, even Falk, who put all of this incredible pressure on her, going to her school, confronted her in front of the kids, made her feel more anxious. Bailey going out there, talking to, so we tried to look at this idea, what's the famous Agatha Christie story where everyone is the killer? Yeah, that's right. So they're all complicit. Like we were looking at a model where we were trying to imply that really in the jigsaw puzzle of this, everyone has a little bit of responsibility for it.
All right, well, thank you both so much for coming here and
I think if you want to hang around, there's a short break, but the dry is playing for anyone who doesn't have to go to work early tomorrow. And like I said before, I'm curious about how it works as a prequel. How many people have you seen the drive, just out of interest? Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much.